Stop. Hands up. Whose dog is that?
Mine.
His nickname is the problem. I got a report about a stolen French bulldog.
This is my dog.
We also got a call about a suspicious person with an expensive dog who doesn't belong in this neighborhood.
If you think these officers just made a career-ending mistake by arresting a former Fortune 500 CEO for simply walking his own dog, smash that like button and subscribe right now. Because in the next few hours, the truth is going to come out. This department is going to be forced to write a check for $2.4 million, and at least 3 badges are going to disappear forever. This isn't just another wrongful detention story. This is Elijah Thornton, the man who ran Vanguard Tech Solutions, a $12 billion revenue Fortune 500 giant, for 18 years, getting handcuffed on the sidewalk 4 houses from his $4.1 million home. Because 2 officers saw a black man with a $7,200 French bulldog and immediately decided. Thief, before I continue, let me ask you, have you ever been treated like you didn't belong somewhere you had every right to be just because of how you looked? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. Elijah Thornton was 54 years old, 6'2", with the calm, upright posture of someone who had spent 4 decades walking into rooms where everyone else was waiting for his decision. Even in retirement, he radiated the kind of quiet authority that once made boardrooms fall silent when he entered. He had grown up on the south side of Chicago in a small apartment above his father's auto repair shop. His mother worked double shifts as a nurse at Cook County Hospital. Neither parent had gone to college, but both insisted their only son would. Elijah earned a full-ride academic scholarship to MIT, double majoring in computer science and business administration, graduating summa cum laude. From there, he went straight to Wharton for his MBA. He started at Bain & Company right out of business school, quickly becoming one of their youngest partners. At 37, he was headhunted to become vice president of corporate strategy at Vanguard Tech Solutions, then a $3.8 billion mid-tier tech conglomerate struggling with digital transformation. Over the next 8 years, Elijah redesigned their entire innovation pipeline, acquired 3 strategic startups, and repositioned the company as a leader in cloud infrastructure and AI-driven analytics. At age 45, the board named him CEO, making him one of only 7 black CEOs leading Fortune 500 companies that year. He held the position for 18 years. Under his watch, Vanguard's annual revenue climbed from $5.6 billion to $12.3 billion. Market cap more than tripled. The company was named to Fortune's Most Admired Companies list for 14 consecutive years and consistently ranked in the top 40 for innovation, diversity, and sustainability. Elijah personally launched and funded internal programs that raised minority executive representation from 10% to 38%, numbers still cited as a benchmark in corporate America. He appeared on the covers of Fortune, Forbes, Fast Company, and Bloomberg Businessweek. Time magazine listed him among the 100 most influential people twice. He gave commencement addresses at MIT, Wharton, Howard University, and Morehouse College. 6 universities awarded him honorary doctorates. He stepped down as CEO 3 years ago at age 51, moving into the newly created Chairman Emeritus role while accepting invitations to join the boards of 4 other Fortune 500 companies. A major semiconductor manufacturer, a global logistics firm, a leading healthcare technology company, and a renewable energy giant. He advised on long-term strategy, governance, and ESG initiatives, all while finally having time for the life he had put on hold for decades. His wife, Sophia Thornton, had been a circuit court judge for the past 10 years. They married right after Elijah finished Wharton. She had already been climbing the legal ladder. Their daughter, Olivia, 28, was a partner at one of the top intellectual property law firms in New York. Their son, Ethan, 26, was in his final year of neurosurgery residency at Mayo Clinic. The Thornton family had lived in Willow Creek Manor, one of the most prestigious gated communities in the region, for 7 years. Their custom stone and glass home sat on 1.8 acres, valued at $4.1 million according to the latest county assessment. They were deeply involved in the community. Elijah and Sophia had personally donated more than $4.8 million over the past decade to STEM education for under-resourced students, criminal justice reform nonprofits, and scholarships for first-generation college students. Everyone in Willow Creek Manor knew who Elijah Thornton was, or at least they thought they did. 3 years earlier, after Elijah officially stepped back from daily operations at Vanguard, Sophia had gently suggested they finally get the dog they had always talked about but never had time for. During his CEO years, he traveled 200-plus days a year and routinely worked 90-hour weeks. A pet simply wasn't realistic. But now it was. They researched breeds carefully and chose a French bulldog, compact, low-energy, affectionate, perfect for long walks and curling up beside Elijah during Zoom board calls. They purchased Baxter from a nationally recognized breeder in Austin, Texas. Price: $7,200. Baxter came from Champion Lines, was AKC registered, microchipped with Elijah's name and phone number, and had full veterinary records at Willow Creek Veterinary Clinic. The dog quickly became Elijah's shadow, trotting beside him on every evening walk at exactly 7 o'clock p.m., rain or shine. Neighbors knew the routine. They waved at Elijah and Baxter every night. Kids in the neighborhood called Baxter by name. The barista at the community cafe kept dog treats behind the counter for their walks. Baxter was as much a fixture in Willow Creek Manor as Elijah himself. This particular Wednesday evening, July 14, 2021, started exactly the same way. Elijah had wrapped a 3-hour virtual board strategy session at 6:30 p.m. He changed out of his tailored suit into something comfortable, dark khakis, and MIT hoodie gray New Balance sneakers. At 6:55 p.m., he clipped the black leather leash, Baxter's name embroidered in silver, onto the dog's harness and stepped out the front door into the warm summer air. Temperature was 81 degrees F, sunset still an hour away, streets quiet except for distant lawnmowers and the occasional sprinkler. He looked exactly like what he was. A successful retired executive enjoying a calm evening with his dog. But appearances, especially when filtered through bias, can be deadly. At 5:12 p.m. that same afternoon, a resident named Laura Benson called 911 to report that her French bulldog Max had slipped out of her backyard gate in Willow Creek Manor. She described him as male, black and brindle coat, about 45 pounds, wearing a bright green collar with a small silver star tag, answering to Max. The call was logged, broadcast to patrol units. Bolo lost French bulldog, black/brindle green collar, name Max. Officers David Ramirez, 34, 6 years on the force, and Sarah Patel, 31, 4 years on the force, were working the evening shift in the upscale districts. They saw the Bolo flash across their mobile data terminal and made a mental note to keep an eye out. At 7:05 p.m., dispatch sent a second call their way. This one came from Karen Whitaker, 58, who lived on the next street over. She reported seeing a suspicious black male walking a very expensive-looking dog through the neighborhood. "He doesn't seem to belong here," she told the dispatcher. "He's walking very slowly, looking at the houses. We've had some package thefts and a garage break-in last month. I just thought you should know," the dispatcher asked. "Is he doing anything illegal right now?" Whitaker: "Not exactly, but it just feels off. That dog looks really pricey." Ramirez and Patel exchanged glances. They had both taken calls like this before, calls that almost always turned out to be nothing more than someone uncomfortable with a black face in a predominantly white, wealthy zip code. But then Ramirez remembered the earlier Bolo. "French bulldogs are expensive," he said. "What if he found the lost one and is just walking it around?" Patel tilted her head. "Or took it. People steal designer dogs all the time." It was a theory built on sand, but sand that looked solid when you were already primed to see a problem. They turned onto Willow Creek Lane and spotted Elijah about 3 blocks ahead, walking at his usual measured pace, Baxter trotting happily beside him. "Black man, expensive French bulldog," matches the general description. Ramirez eased the cruiser to the curb. Both officers stepped out. From their perspective, they were about to recover a lost pet and possibly make an arrest for theft. From Elijah's perspective, 2 police officers had just blocked his path on his own street while he was doing the single most ordinary thing in his retired life, walking his dog. And the next 7 minutes would change everything. Officer Ramirez stepped directly into Elijah's path, right hand hovering near his holster. "Sir, stop right there, don't move, put your hands where I can see them." Elijah froze mid-stride. Baxter sat instantly beside him, the way he always did when they paused, tongue lolling, tail giving one slow wag. Elijah kept both palms visible, voice even and measured. "Officer, is there a problem? I'm just walking my dog." "We do this every evening." Ramirez didn't smile. "That's what we need to talk about. Whose dog is that?" Elijah glanced down at Baxter, then back up, genuinely puzzled for the first second. "He's mine. His name is Baxter. We live 4 houses down the street. This is our normal route." Officer Patel moved to Elijah's left flank, creating the classic pincer position they'd been trained to use. "We received a report of a stolen French bulldog in this exact area. Your dog matches the description we were given." Elijah felt the first real heat rise in his chest, not panic, but the slow, familiar burn of recognition. He'd heard versions of this story from friends, from mentees, from his own son during college visits to predominantly white campuses. He exhaled slowly through his nose. "I assure you this is my dog. I have the purchase receipt from 3 years ago, AKC papers, full vet history at Willow Creek Veterinary Clinic, and he's microchipped in my name. If you'd like, I can walk you to my house right now. It's less than a 4-minute walk and show you everything. Or you can call animal control. They can scan the chip in under 2 minutes." Ramirez's eyes flicked to the dog, then back to Elijah's face. Where'd you get a dog like that? Frenchies like him go for 7-8 grand easy. The question wasn't really a question. It was an accusation wearing the skin of curiosity. Elijah's jaw tightened just enough to notice. I purchased him legally from a responsible breeder in Austin, Texas. Paid $7,200. I have the documentation. Again, happy to retrieve it, or we can verify the microchip right here. Patel pulled out her small notepad, pen already clicking. Do you have any ID on you right now? Something that proves the dog is yours? Elijah moved deliberately, telegraphing every motion the way he'd taught Ethan to do years ago. I have my driver's license in my back right pocket. I'm going to reach for it slowly. Okay? He extracted the slim carbon fiber wallet, slid the license out, and extended it toward Ramirez with 2 fingers. Ramirez took it, glanced at the photo, then at Elijah, then at the address. Elijah Thornton, 952 Willow Creek Lane. He looked up the street toward the house numbers. You say you live 4 houses that way? Yes, the gray stone with the black shutters and the arched driveway entrance. My wife and I have owned it for 7 years. Patel spoke next, voice flatter than before. We also received a separate call from a resident who saw a man matching your description walking what looked like a very expensive dog. She said the person appeared out of place in the neighborhood. The words landed like a slap Elijah had been waiting for since the moment the cruiser pulled up. He didn't flinch outwardly. His voice stayed courtroom calm. Out of place. I've lived in this neighborhood longer than most of the current residents. I walk this street at 7:00 p.m. every single evening. My neighbors know me. My neighbors know Baxter. If out of place means black, then say it plainly. But I belong here, this is my home. Ramirez handed the license back, his tone hardened. Look, we have a lost dog report. French bulldog male, black and brindle, about 45 pounds, green collar. Your dog fits that. Elijah gestured calmly toward Baxter. Baxter's collar is black leather with his name embroidered in silver, not green. He doesn't have any green accessories. And if you call him Max, the name on the lost report, watch what happens. He looked down. Max, come here. Baxter didn't twitch, just tilted his head and panted happily. Now watch this, Baxter. Baxter, sit. The dog, already sitting, thumped his stubby tail once and looked up at Elijah with pure devotion. You see, he answers to Baxter, not Max. Different collar, different response, different everything. This is not the lost dog. Patel checked her notes again. The owner said their dog is skittish around strangers, gets anxious, hides. Elijah almost laughed bitter short. Does this look like a skittish dog to you? He's sitting here wagging at 2 armed strangers, because he's well socialized, because he's mine. The officers exchanged a glance, the kind that says we're already too deep to back out easily. Ramirez squared his shoulders. Sir, for right now we have reasonable suspicion based on 2 independent reports. I'm going to need you to turn around and place your hands behind your back. You're being detained while we investigate the possible theft of the animal. Elijah stared at him for 2 full seconds. You're detaining me for walking my own dog. After I gave you my ID showing I live 4 houses away. After I offered 3 different ways to verify ownership, microchip, paperwork, neighbor confirmation. And you're still choosing handcuffs. Turn around, hands behind your back. Now, Elijah scanned the street. Curtains twitched in at least 3 windows. A phone camera lens glinted from the porch of the Sinclair house. Another from the driveway across the street. He knew exactly what came next if he resisted, even verbally. He'd sat through too many depositions, read too many settlement agreements, heard too many stories that ended with he should have just complied. He thought of Ethan, the long talks about traffic stops, about keeping hands visible, about surviving first and litigating later. He thought of Olivia, who would be furious and then methodical. He thought of Sophia, watching from the bay window right now, already reaching for her phone. My name is Elijah Thornton, he said loudly, clearly, projecting toward every recording device in sight. I am the former CEO of Vanguard Tech Solutions, a Fortune 500 company. This is my dog, Baxter. I live at 952 Willow Creek Lane. I have offered multiple ways to verify that fact. You are making a very serious mistake. Everyone filming this, please continue. I want clear documentation of exactly what is happening. He turned slowly, placed both hands behind his back. The metallic click of the cuffs felt colder than the July air should allow. Baxter whined once, soft, confused, and tugged toward Elijah. Patel took the leash from Elijah's now empty hand. We'll hold the dog until ownership is confirmed. Elijah stood there, handcuffed on the sidewalk of his own street, 4 houses from the front door where his wife was watching, where his children had grown up visiting on holidays, and felt the full weight of something he had spent 35 years trying to outrun. Power, money, titles, board seats, honorary degrees, none of it mattered in that moment. 2 officers saw skin first. Everything else came second. From 5 houses down, a voice cut through the tension. Elijah Thornton. What in God's name is going on? James Caldwell, venture capitalist, neighbor, friend who had attended Elijah's retirement dinner, strode toward them, iPhone already recording in landscape mode. Officers, I'm James Caldwell. I live right there, that's Elijah Thornton. He's my neighbor, that's his dog, Baxter. I've seen them walk past my house every night for 3 years. What the hell are you doing? Ramirez shifted his weight. We're investigating a possible stolen animal. Caldwell didn't blink. That's not a stolen animal. Laura Benson's dog Max has a white flash on his right ear. Baxter doesn't. I saw Laura's post in the community app this afternoon. Different dog, different collar, different everything. You're handcuffing one of the most respected men in the city, a man who ran a $12 billion company, because you didn't bother to check basic details. Patel's hand drifted toward her radio. Dispatch, can you pull the lost dog report again? Any distinguishing marks on the animal? Stand by, 40 seconds of silence that felt like 40 minutes. Then the crackle. Owner advises Max has a distinct white spot on right ear, green collar with star tag, microchip prefix 985. Dog is described as nervous around unfamiliar people. Patel looked at Baxter, calm, tail sweeping the concrete, leaning toward Caldwell like an old friend. No white spot, black collar, zero nerves. She met Ramirez's eyes quietly. This isn't the dog. Caldwell wasn't done. And that concerned resident call, let me guess, Karen Whitaker, she's infamous around here. Calls the cops on every black or brown face she sees. Last week it was the UPS guy delivering to the wrong house. She thought he was casing the joint. Month before that, a landscaping crew. Month before that, the food delivery driver for the Johnsons. She sees melanin and dials 911 like it's her job. Ramirez's face flushed, a mix of frustration and dawning regret. Sir, we're responding to valid calls. The lost dog alert plus the suspicious person report gave us grounds to stop and investigate. Caldwell shook his head, phone still rolling. Grounds? You had a vague description that didn't match. You had his ID showing he lives here. You had him offering to prove ownership 3 ways from Sunday, and you still cuffed him. That's not investigation, that's assumption. Elijah Thornton built a $12 billion empire. He's advised presidents on tech policy. He's on the cover of Forbes, and you treated him like a thief because Karen Whitaker got twitchy. Patel, who had been quiet, finally acted. She pulled her phone from her belt and tapped Elijah's name into Google. First hit, Wikipedia page. Elijah Thornton, born 1967, is an American business executive, former CEO of Vanguard Tech Solutions. Second hit. Fast Company article from 9 months ago, how Elijah Thornton turned Vanguard into an AI powerhouse. Third, Forbes list the 60 most influential black leaders in business. Photo after photo. The same man now standing before her in cuffs. Her whisper was barely audible. Oh God, that's really him. Ramirez leaned over, saw the screen and went sheet white. The Vanguard guy. The one who just keynoted at CES. Caldwell nodded grimly. Former CEO, yeah, retired 3 years ago. Now he's on 4 Fortune 500 boards. His wife's a circuit judge. He knows governors, senators, CEOs. And you just humiliated him in front of his own neighbors because you didn't scan a microchip or walk 4 houses to verify. Patel fumbled for her cuff key like it was burning her. Mr. Thornton, I'm removing these right now. I am so sorry. This was a mistake, a huge one. The cuffs clicked open. Elijah flexed his wrists, took Baxter's leash back from Patel. The dog immediately nuzzled his leg, whining softly, sensing the tension. Elijah's voice was steel, the same tone he'd used in boardrooms to end careers. A mistake. You assumed theft because I'm black with an expensive dog. You ignored my ID, my explanations, my offers to prove everything. You chose bias over basics. And now you're sorry because you Googled me and realized I'm somebody. What if I wasn't? What if I was just another black resident without the Wikipedia page? Ramirez stammered. We were following protocol on 2 overlapping reports. You were lazy, Elijah cut in. Path of least resistance. Black man equals suspect. You could have called animal control 2 minutes for a chip scan, could have escorted me home 4 minutes to see paperwork, could have matched the description properly. No white ear spot, wrong collar color, calm dog versus skittish. You did none of it, straight to cuffs. Caldwell, still filming, chimed in. I've got the whole thing on video. And I count at least 5 neighbors recording from their properties. Body cams too, right? This is all documented. You profiled a pillar of this community. Patel touched her chest cam reflexively, yes, rolling the whole time. Mr. Thornton, we apologize profoundly. If there's anything, there is, Elijah said. Tomorrow my lawyers contact your department. This ends with accountability not just for me, but for everyone you've done this to without consequences. He turned, Baxter at his heel, and walked the 4 houses to his door, head high, steps deliberate. Neighbors watched silently. One clapped slowly as he passed. Caldwell called after him, Elijah, I'm emailing you the video now. Anything else you need, witness statement, whatever. And I'm raising hell at the next HOA meeting about Whitaker. She's terrorized too many people. Elijah nodded without looking back. Appreciate it, James. Sophia met him at the door, face a storm of worry and rage. She'd seen it all from the window, phone already in hand. Elijah, handcuffs on our street. Inside, he said quietly. Baxter trotted past, oblivious, heading for his water bowl. Elijah went straight to his study, walls lined with awards, photos with industry titans, framed magazine covers. He sank into the leather chair, pulled up his contacts. Marcus Lee, his lead attorney, a shark in civil rights cases, picked up on the second ring. Elijah, everything okay? It's after hours. Not okay. I need you to prep a federal civil rights suit against the city PD. I was just detained, handcuffed for walking Baxter. My own dog, on my own block. Racial profiling, false detention, the works. I've got video from a neighbor, body cam footage incoming, multiple witnesses. A pause, then Jesus. Send me everything. I'll loop in Angela Rivera, she's the best on these. We'll file by end of week. Elijah hung up, stared at the screen. Baxter curled at his feet, snoring softly, 35 years of grinding. Scholarships, late nights, proving doubters wrong, shattering ceilings. And still reduced to suspicious in seconds. Let me know in the comments if you've ever seen a pattern like this in your town. These stories happen every day, but not everyone has the platform to make noise. Within 25 minutes of Elijah walking through his door, Caldwell's video hit 4 platforms: Twitter, now X, Facebook, Instagram, and the Willow Creek Manor private group app. Caption on X: just witnessed my neighbor, former Vanguard CEO Elijah Thornton, get handcuffed by cops for walking his own dog in our neighborhood. Racial profiling at its worst. Officers assumed theft because black man plus nice dog equals criminal. Disgraceful. Number justice for Elijah. The clip ran 3:15 starting from Caldwell's approach, capturing the officer's admissions, Patel's Google shock, Elijah's ice-cold takedown. Clear audio, steady frame. Watermark. Recorded July 14, 2021, Willow Creek Manor. 5 other neighbors uploaded their angles, one from a ring cam showing the initial stop, another from a porch catching the cuffing. A third with Elijah's loud declaration of identity, 2 more on the release and apology. Hashtags exploded, number justice for Elijah, number walking while black, number profiled in suburbia. Local trending in 45 minutes. National by hour 3, 150,000 views in the first hour. Shares from ACLU chapters, NAACP locals, Black Enterprise magazine. But the real fuel, who Elijah was, business media pounced. CNBC at 8:30 p.m. Breaking segment, ex-Vanguard CEO detained in apparent racial profiling incident while walking dog. Forbes tweet, Elijah Thornton, featured in our influential black execs list, handcuffed by police in his upscale neighborhood for owning a dog. Story developing. Wall Street Journal push alert. Former tech titan Elijah Thornton claims profiling after brief arrest in gated community. Black professional networks amplified hard. National Black Business Council statement. If Elijah Thornton, Fortune 500 leader, board member, philanthropist, can be cuffed on his block, no black American is immune. Systemic bias knows no income bracket. African American Economic Forum on X. Thornton's detention proves success doesn't shield from suspicion. Number and profiling now. Vanguard's current CEO issued a release. Elijah led us through 18 years of growth with integrity and vision. This incident is appalling, we stand with him fully. Board colleagues from his 4 companies followed. Condemnations, calls for investigation. By 9:30 p.m., PD's PR line was jammed. Media trucks rolled into Willow Creek. At 10:30 p.m., Chief Robert Hayes faced cameras in an emergency briefing. We're reviewing the incident involving Mr. Thornton. Officers on admin leave, body footage under internal affairs, profiling allegations taken seriously. Too late, damage viral, commenters dissected, he offered microchip scan 3 times, ignored. Whitaker's call. Textbook Karen racism. Legal talking heads on cable, no probable cause, vague suspicious plus mismatched dog equals unlawful detention, 4th Amendment violation. Sophia's statement via court PR. We pursue this through legal channels, trust the system, but demand reform. By 11:30 p.m., 4.5 hours post-incident, lead story on CNN, MSNBC, Fox, trending number 1 on X. Petitions for officer firing hit 50,000 signatures. Elijah watched from his study, Baxter asleep nearby, exhausted, furious, determined. None of his achievements had shielded him, but they'd give him the megaphone to fight. Elijah sat in the dim glow of his desk lamp, replaying Caldwell's video on loop. The moment the cuffs clicked, the officer's faces shifting from certainty to panic. His own voice steady but laced with something colder than he'd ever allowed in a boardroom. Baxter snored softly at his feet, one paw twitching in a dream. Sophia stood in the doorway, arms crossed, judge eyes scanning him for damage. "They'll pay," she said quietly. "Not just money, real change, or we make sure the whole country knows why." He nodded once. Already his phone buzzed nonstop. Texts from board colleagues, former Vanguard execs, old classmates from MIT. One from the current Vanguard CEO. "Whatever you need, legal PR statements. We're behind you 100%. Another from a senator he'd advised on tech policy. "This is unacceptable. Call if you want federal eyes on the department." But Elijah wasn't thinking about leverage yet. He was thinking about the dozens, maybe hundreds of black residents in this city who'd been stopped, questioned, cuffed for far less. Who didn't have 5 neighbors filming. Who didn't have a Wikipedia page to Google. Who walked away with a ticket, a record, trauma, and no recourse. Before I continue, let me ask you, if stories like this make your blood boil, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We need more people seeing this. Type justice in the comments if you think qualified immunity needs to end yesterday. Next morning, July 15, 2021, 8:45 am City Hall conference room. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown. Mayor Thomas Grant at the head of the table. Police Chief Robert Hayes to his right. City Attorney Laura Nguyen, Police Union Rep, and on the big screen via Zoom, Marcus Lee and Angela Rivera, Elijah's legal team. Elijah sat in the room, Sophia beside him. No tie, just a crisp polo and the same calm that once closed billion-dollar deals. Baxter was at home with the dog Walker. Mayor Grant cleared his throat. "Mr. Thornton, on behalf of the city, I want to extend our deepest, most sincere apologies. What happened last night should never have happened. We're committed to making this right." Marcus Lee, no-nonsense, silver-haired, voice like gravel, didn't let the platitude linger. "Apologies are noted, Mayor, but let's be clear. My client was unlawfully detained without probable cause. Handcuffed in public, humiliated in front of his neighbors, all based on racial profiling triggered by a vague, suspicious person call and a mismatched lost dog report. We have multiple videos, body cam footage, witness statements. This isn't a whoopsie. This is a 4th and 14th Amendment violation." Angela Rivera leaned forward. The officers had a lost dog description that didn't match, wrong collar, no white ear spot, calm temperament versus skittish. A concerned citizen call with zero evidence of crime, just he doesn't belong here. Mr. Thornton's driver's license showing residency 4 houses away. Repeated offers to verify via microchip, paperwork, or walking to the house. They ignored all of it and went straight to restraints. That's not reasonable suspicion, that's bias. Chief Hayes shifted uncomfortably. "We've placed officers Ramirez and Patel on paid administrative leave pending full IA review. Body cam and witness video are being examined. I've ordered mandatory bias retraining for the entire shift." Marcus, not enough. "We're filing a federal civil rights lawsuit today. Section 1983, unlawful detention, false arrest, monal claim against the city for failure to train and supervise. We want policy changes, not promises." Nguyen tried the middle ground. "The city is open to settlement discussions and meaningful reforms. We don't want a protracted battle." Angela cut her off. "We do want a protracted battle if that's what it takes. Because this isn't just about Elijah Thornton. It's about every black resident who gets the 'you don't belong here' treatment and has no video, no platform, no attorneys on speed dial. We're forcing discovery on your department's history of concerned citizen calls. How many? Demographic breakdown. How many led to actual crime versus nothing? We want the data." Elijah spoke for the first time, voice low, but carrying the weight of every boardroom he'd ever commanded. "I'm fortunate I have resources, I have visibility. This story went national overnight because of who I am, but most people don't. How many black men, women, teenagers in this city have been detained because Karen Whitaker or someone like her felt uncomfortable? How many complied, went home shaken, never reported it? How many got records that follow them forever? I'm not here for a quiet check and a pat on the back. I'm here because if we don't force systemic change now, nothing changes. So no, we're not settling quietly, we're filing publicly. And we're asking for everything: damages, policy overhaul, independent oversight, public database of stops by race and neighborhood." The room went quiet. Mayor Grant glanced at the chief, then back at Elijah. He understood the math. Fight a man with Elijah's profile, resources, and moral high ground, and the city loses in court and in the court of public opinion. Fight and the viral videos keep playing on every news cycle for months. Grant exhaled. "We'll take your demands under serious consideration. Can we reconvene in 48 hours with a counter-proposal?" Marcus. "You have 24, clocks ticking." They left the room. Outside, reporters waited. Elijah gave no comment, just a single nod to the cameras. But the message was clear, this wasn't ending with an apology. Back home, the Thornton Foundation, account dormant since Elijah's retirement, got a $50,000 anonymous donation within the hour. Message: for the fight, you're not alone. By noon, the petition demand accountability. Fire officers who profiled Elijah Thornton hit 120,000 signatures. Number Justice for Elijah trended worldwide. Civil rights groups, NAACP, Color of Change, ACLU issued statements. Corporate America kept piling on. LinkedIn posts from C-suite execs, internal memos at Fortune 500 citing Elijah's case in DEI trainings. And Karen Whitaker. Her name started circulating in neighborhood chats. Screenshots of her past calls leaked. 28 suspicious person reports in 4 years, 26 involving people of color, 0 resulting in arrests for actual crime. The HOA president called an emergency virtual meeting for that evening. Topic: review of resident complaint protocols and possible sanctions for abuse. Elijah walked Baxter at 7:00 p.m. that night, same route, same time. Neighbors came out to their porches. Some clapped. One older white woman, someone he'd never spoken to, walked over with tears in her eyes. "I'm so sorry this happened to you. I've lived here 22 years. I never thought. I'm ashamed we let this happen." Elijah stopped. "Thank you, but don't be sorry, be angry and vote and call your council members. Because this isn't just my story, it's ours." He kept walking. Baxter trotted happily, tail high. At the exact spot where the cuffs had clicked 24 hours earlier, Elijah paused for 1 second, then he kept going. "710730 SEM LV Beyeze Pero Beye LV. Pero de LG Ayemugelu Belia Tayeri SYVPL SLY de Estevidia. Videru en Eurocratkoi, Vize Eurovidi Paya Erveru Ya Erya El Yeri, and Yeru Yasha Agedikawi Za M Ya N Ya N Ya M. The next 72 hours felt like watching a forest fire spread in fast forward. By Friday morning, July 16, 2021, Number Justice for Elijah had accumulated over 1.2 million mentions across platforms. Caldwell's original video crossed 4.7 million views on X alone. Combined views from all neighbor uploads, north of 12 million. TikTok edits, dramatic zooms on the cuff click, voiceover readings of Elijah's calm declaration racked up tens of millions more. Instagram Reels with captions like, "When success isn't enough to protect you," went mega viral among Gen Z. Mainstream media piled on relentlessly. Good Morning America opened with the story. Last night, a former Fortune 500 CEO was handcuffed in his own upscale neighborhood for walking his dog. Elijah Thornton says it was racial profiling. Tonight, his first on-camera interview. Elijah declined every live request. Instead, he released a single, tightly scripted 90-second statement via his personal X account and Vanguard's corporate channels. "On July 14, I was unlawfully detained and handcuffed on my own street while walking my dog. Despite providing ID, offering microchip verification, and having neighbors confirm my identity and ownership, officers chose detention over due diligence. This was not an isolated mistake. It reflects a pattern of bias that harms people without my resources every day. My family and I are pursuing legal action not just for compensation, but for systemic reform. No one should fear walking in their own neighborhood because of the color of their skin. Thank you to everyone who has shared their stories and support. Keep demanding better." The post garnered 380,000 likes in 12 hours. Replies flooded with personal accounts. "I'm a black doctor. Got stopped in my own gated community last year for looking suspicious while jogging. As a Latina realtor, I've had clients call police on me showing houses in wealthy areas. White guy here, I've never once been questioned walking my rescue mud at night. This has to stop." Corporate response kept escalating. The 4 Fortune 500 boards Elijah sat on issued joint statements calling for independent audits of the police department. Tech giants, companies that had once courted Vanguard for partnerships, donated 6 figures each to civil rights orgs in solidarity with Mr. Thornton. Black CEOs across industries started a quiet but visible wave, posting black squares with number and profiling, then following up with policy demands. Saturday morning, 48 hours post-incident, the city blinked first. Mayor Grant's office leaked strategically that a $2.4 million settlement framework was on the table, plus sweeping reforms. Details leaked to local news. Officers Ramirez and Patel. 120-day unpaid suspension, 250 hours bias plus de-escalation training, 3-year probation. Next complaint equals automatic termination. City payout. $400,000 direct to Elijah, distress, legal fees, emotional harm, $2 million punitive to fund community programs. New policies. Suspicious person calls now require caller to state specific criminal activity, no more he doesn't belong. Officers must document independent reasonable suspicion, caller's word alone insufficient. All lost property reports need detailed identifiers before any detention. Creation of civilian oversight board with subpoena power focused on racial disparities in stops. Public dashboard. Anonymized data on every stop/detention/arrest broken down by race, neighborhood, call type. Investigation into Karen Whitaker for possible false reporting 28 calls, 26 involving POC, 0 substantiated crimes. Elijah's team didn't accept immediately. Marcus Lee, it's a start, but we want the punitive damages earmarked specifically for legal aid clinics serving low-income residents facing similar profiling. And we want the oversight board to have binding recommendation power on discipline, not just advisory. Negotiations stretched into the next week. Meanwhile, the viral wave kept building. By day 5, 28 million combined video views. Petitions surpassed 420,000 signatures. Late-night shows ran segments. Jimmy Fallon, a man worth hundreds of millions, gets arrested for dog walking. If that can happen to him, imagine what happens to the rest of us. Karen Whitaker became the unwitting face of the backlash. Her LinkedIn, she was a retired insurance adjuster, got review-bombed with one-star comments. Neighborhood app threads exposed years of her complaints. She went radio silent, house lights off, car in garage. HOA voted 78-4 to revoke her posting privileges in the community group for 12 months and issue formal warning. Further discriminatory reports would trigger expulsion proceedings. Sunday evening, Elijah did his first and only long-form interview with a black-owned digital outlet, The Root. No live cameras. Just audio plus transcript released later. He spoke for 47 minutes. Key lines that got clipped and shared millions of times. I've broken barriers my entire life, first in my family to college. One of the youngest black partners at Bain, one of few black Fortune 500 CEOs, and still in that moment none of it mattered. They saw skin color before credentials. This isn't about me getting justice. It's about making sure the next person who doesn't have board seats or attorneys doesn't have to endure the same thing. I walk Baxter every night at 7 o'clock. I'll keep doing it because this is my neighborhood. And no one gets to decide I don't belong. The interview transcript alone got 1.8 million reads in 24 hours. Monday, July 19, Day 5, City Hall announced they would meet all major demands. Settlement papers drafted. Elijah signed digitally from his study. Baxter lay across his feet snoring. Sophia watched over his shoulder. When the final page was done, she kissed his temple. Now use it, she said. Build something bigger. He already had the plan. That night he announced the Thornton Equity Initiative, seeded with his $400,000 settlement share plus personal funds. Focus. Free legal clinics for racial profiling victims, policy advocacy grants, scholarships for first-gen law students of color. Within 48 hours, $3.2 million in additional donations from corporations, foundations, individuals. And every evening at 7 o'clock p.m., rain or shine, Elijah clipped the leash and walked. Past the spot. Past the houses with moved curtains, past neighbors who now waved with respect and a little guilt. The fire kept burning. Settlement finalized October 2021, 3 months after the incident. Federal courthouse closed-door signing. Elijah, Sophia, Marcus Lee, Angela Rivera on one side. City attorney, mayor's chief of staff, insurance rep on the other. $2.4 million wired that afternoon. $400,000 to Elijah personally, $2 million into a court-supervised fund for anti-profiling initiatives. No admission of liability, standard boilerplate, but the reforms were ironclad and public. Officers Ramirez and Patel served their 120-day unpaid suspensions. Both completed the mandated 250 hours of training, implicit bias, procedural justice, de-escalation, cultural competency. Both returned to duty on probation. Neither lasted long. By March 2022, Ramirez took early retirement, citing health reasons in his exit interview. Patel resigned 6 months later, moved to a smaller department 2 counties over. Whispers in the precinct. They're the ones who cuffed Thornton. No one wants to partner with them. Karen Whitaker faced misdemeanor charges, 2 counts of filing false police reports from 2019 and 2020 incidents. DA offered diversion, community service, anger management, no contest plea. She took it. Barred from non-emergency 911/311 calls for 18 months. HOA formally expelled her from the community group and issued a cease and desist-style letter. Further complaints deemed discriminatory would trigger eviction proceedings under new bylaws. The Thornton Equity Initiative launched January 2022. First-year budget, $4.7 million settlement seed plus donations. 3 pillars. Free legal clinics in 5 counties. Already 180 cases taken in year 1, 62% profiling related. Policy advocacy, lobbied for state bill requiring bodycam footage release within 72 hours of high-profile incidents. Past 2023. Education grants, 42 full-ride scholarships to law school for first-gen students of color. Elijah became a quiet but relentless advocate. Keynote at NAACP National Conference 2022. Testified before House Judiciary Subcommittee on Policing Reform. Op-ed in Washington Post. I was a Fortune 500 CEO. Police arrested me for walking my dog. Here's why that should terrify every American. 2.1 million reads, republished in 14 languages. National conversation shifted slowly, unevenly, but the data spoke loudest. Press conference, City Hall steps, April 2023, 20 months post-incident. Elijah stood at the podium, Sophia to his right, Marcus and Angela behind. Baxter sat politely at his feet, leash loose, tail thumping. Crowd, local media, national stringers, civil rights leaders, about 200 community members. Elijah's opening, good afternoon. 20 months ago I was handcuffed 4 houses from my front door while walking my dog. Today I stand here not as a victim, but as proof that one person with resources, with visibility, with determination can force meaningful change. But this isn't my victory alone. It's the victory of every person who shared their story, signed petitions, called council members, demanded better. Here are the facts we uncovered and why they matter nationally. He stepped aside. Angela Rivera took the mic. During discovery, we obtained 5 years of department data. 4812, suspicious person calls logged. 68% initiated by white collars about black or brown individuals. Only 9% resulted in any arrest or citation for actual crime. Black residents, 14% of population, accounted for 47% of all pedestrian stops in affluent zip codes. 0 audits or training mandates on caller bias prior to July 2021. Marcus Lee next. Post-reform numbers first 12 months after new policies. Suspicious person calls dropped 41%. Detentions without probable cause fell 63% in monitored precincts. Complaints alleging racial profiling decreased 52%. Civilian Oversight Board reviewed 214 cases. Recommended discipline in 37, 29 officers received sanctions, 4 terminated. Elijah returned to the podium. These numbers aren't anomalies, they're the norm across America. According to 2023 DOJ statistics, Black Americans are 2.5 times more likely to be stopped by police than white Americans, 3.1 times more likely to experience force. In traffic and pedestrian stops, Black drivers/passersby searched at rates 2-3 times higher. Yet contraband found less often, disparity index 0.68 versus 1 for whites. Stanford Open Policing Project, 139 million stops analyzed. Black people 20% more likely to be stopped, even controlling for location/time. Mapping Police Violence Database. Black Americans 2.9 times more likely to be killed by police. Qualified immunity shielded officers in 57% of excessive force cases from 2005-2022. These aren't isolated incidents, they're patterns, and patterns can be broken but only when we demand it. He paused, looked directly into cameras. I walk Baxter every evening at 7:00 p.m. same route, same time. I still get occasional stares, but now more waves than suspicion because people saw what happened and chose to act. So my final question to every viewer, what will you do when you see the next story like this? Will you scroll past? Or will you speak, share, organize, vote? The choice is yours, but silence costs lives. Questions followed. Reporter, do you regret not fighting harder at the scene? Elijah. I regret that any black man has to calculate survival odds during a walk with his dog. That's the real tragedy. Another, was $2.4 million enough? Elijah, money was never the point. The reforms and the precedent are worth far more. Last question, will you ever move? Elijah smiled faintly, first real one of the presser. This is my home, I'm not going anywhere, and neither is Baxter. He stepped down. Baxter trotted beside him, crowd parted, some applauded, some wiped eyes, cameras followed until he reached the car. Back home that night, Elijah sat on the porch, Sophia beside him. Baxter sprawled across both laps. Sunset painted the street gold. He looked at the spot 4 houses down where cuffs once clicked, then he looked at his wife. We did good, she said. We started something, he corrected. Now others have to finish it. 1 year later, April 2024, Elijah Thornton stood before an audience of 150 new police recruits in the Academy auditorium. Topic: Implicit bias and verification protocols. He had been invited as a special guest speaker 2 years to the day after the incident. Baxter wasn't with him, the dog was waiting at home. But Elijah had brought photos. One slide showed him and Baxter on that very street at sunset. The next slide, still from neighbor video, him in handcuffs, officers on either side. "When you watched that video 2 years ago," he began, voice steady and low, "you saw a former Fortune 500 CEO. A man with millions in the bank, board seats, honorary degrees, national recognition. But strip away those titles and what's left? A black man who doesn't belong in a wealthy neighborhood. That's what those officers saw, not my ID, not my offers to scan the microchip, not the mismatches in the lost dog description. They saw skin color and assumed crime. I walked away because neighbors recorded, because I had resources, because the story went viral. Thousands of others don't. They suffer in silence. They get records. They get trauma. They get nothing. I'm here today to tell you one thing: verify before you assume. Check facts before you cuff. Treat every person, regardless of race, clothing, neighborhood, accent, with the dignity they deserve. Because the next person you profile might not have my attorneys, might not have a platform, might not have the strength to fight back. They might just break. Don't let someone's race tell you a story the facts don't support." The recruits sat in silence. Some nodded slowly, some shifted in their seats, uncomfortable but listening. One raised a hand. "What if the call sounds legitimate?" Elijah met his eyes. "Then verify, always. It protects careers, it protects lives. It protects communities. That's the only protocol that matters." He stepped away from the podium. The academy commander thanked him. A few recruits stood and clapped, hesitant at first, then more. Elijah walked out into the spring air. He didn't look back. 5 years after the incident, July 2026, the reforms born from Elijah's case had spread. Departments in 14 states adopted similar verification mandates and caller screening rules. The Thornton Equity Initiative had helped over 1,200 people with free legal aid, awarded 87 full scholarships, influenced 3 federal bills still working through committee. Elijah Thornton spent 35 years building a career, leading a Fortune 500 company, breaking barriers as a black CEO. He was arrested on his own street for walking his own dog because 2 officers made assumptions based on race rather than facts. The $2.4 million settlement was significant, but far more important were the reforms, the accountability the message sent. Wealth and achievement don't protect you from racial profiling, but they can give you the platform to demand change. So here's my final question to you. Was the settlement enough? Should the officers have been fired instead of suspended? Should concerned citizen calls based purely on race be treated as false reports and prosecuted? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Type justice if you believe qualified immunity should end. Share this story if you think millions more need to see it. Comment below if you've ever felt profiled or witnessed it in your own town. If stories like this matter to you, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. See you in the next one.